Polyribosome polysomes are also known as GPAT 2019. Polyribosome या polysome are polysome are also known as ergastoplasm, ergastome, ergasome, ergosteral. So correct. Polyribosome are also known as ergasome. Polyribosome या polysome इसे हम ergasome भी कहते हैं. So ribosome मतलब ribosome are protein synthesizer of the cell not bound by membrane. Ribosome form a chain on a common messenger RNA and forms polyribosome and polysomes or ergasomes. Peroxisome also known as microbodies are single membrane cellular structure. They are spherical or oval in shape, contain enzyme catalases. Catalase protect the cell from toxic effect of hydrogen peroxide by converting into water and oxygen. Peroxisome are also capable of carrying out beta oxidation of fatty acid. Vacuoles, the term vacuoles mean empty space. They can store food and other nutrient required by a cell to survive. Bound by single membrane called as tonoplast. It facilitates endocytosis and exocytosis. Which type of a cell junction prevent intercellular exchange of a substance? Which type of a cell junction prevents intercellular exchange of a substance? Gap junction, desmosome, tight junction, focal adhesion. Which type of a cell junction prevent intercellular exchange of a substance? Intercellular exchange of a substance. So correct answer हो जाएगा tight junction. So cell junction. The cell junction is the connection between the neighboring cell or the contact between cell and extracellular matrix. They are classified in three types. Occluding junction which prevent intercellular exchange of a substance माने tight junction. Communicating junction which permit the intercellular exchange of a substance. Communicating junction which permit the intercellular exchange of a substance माने gap junction. Which type of cell junction prevent intercellular exchange of substance? Occluding junction which prevent intercellular exchange of a substance जिसे हम tight junction कहते हैं. What is the approximate duration of a complete human cell cycle in a typical rapidly dividing cell? 8 hour, 12 hour, 24 hour, 48 hour. What is the approximate duration of a complete human cell cycle in a typical rapidly dividing cell? 24 hour. Cell cycle and cell division. The sequence of event by which cell duplicate its genome, synthesize other cell content and eventually divide into two daughter cell is termed as cell cycle. The sequence of event by which cell duplicate its genome, synthesize other cell content and eventually divides into two daughter cell is termed as cell cycle. Duration of cell cycle in human is 24 hour. The life cycle of a cell involves two distinct phases: cytoplasm forming two new cell. The phase in which two identical copies of DNA are formed is G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase, M phase. The phase in which two identical copies of DNA are formed is एस फेज. सो इंटरफेज जिसको हम कहते हैं नॉन डिवाइडिंग पीरियड. इंटरफेज is metabolically active stage and is a period of intense synthesis and growth. It is interval between two successive cell division. This is divided into three periods. First gap phase जिसे G1 phase, synthesis phase S phase, second growth phase G2 phase. First gap phase. The cell grows in size and volume. This is usually the longest phase. Sometimes cells do not continue round the cell cycle but enter a resting phase G0. Despite being called the resting phase, cells at this stage are highly active, carrying out their specific function. The cell may stay in G0 permanently, but several cell types can be stimulated to re-enter the cell cycle and start dividing again if needed. If need be. Okay. So the phase in which two identical copies of a DNA are formed is S phase. हाँ तापर synthesis of a DNA जो तो S phase. The chromosome replicates forming two identical copies of a DNA. Therefore, following the S phase, the cell now has 92 chromosomes, enough DNA for two cells, and is nearly ready to divide by mitosis. Second gap phase G2 phase, there is further growth and preparation for cell division. चलो ଏତିକି ହେଇଗଲା. Which phase of meiosis 1 is long and complex? Metaphase 1, anaphase 1, prophase I, telophase I. Which phase of meiosis I is long and complex? Long and complex, that is prophase. So meiosis is the process of a formation of a gametes or sex cell. In this process, single cell divides twice, resulting in the formation of a four daughter cell. In the process of meiosis, the number of chromosomes reduced to half the number of chromosomes in the mother cell. meiosis दो प्रकार का है, meiosis 1, meiosis 2. meiosis 1 को बोला जाता है called reductional division, also called heterotypic division because it brings about change from diploid to haploid state. Meiosis 2 called as equational division, also called homotypic division, meant for maintaining haploid number. Now meiosis 2 जो होता है वो चार टाइप का होता है, प्रोफेज, मेटाफेज, एनाफेज, टेलोफेज. हर कोई 1 आएगा. प्रोफेज 1 आपका लॉन्ग एंड कॉम्प्लेक्स होता है. मेटाफेज 1 अरेंजमेंट ऑफ chromosomes at equator, maximum condensation of a chromosome. Anaphase 1 movement of homologous without centromere breakage, nuclei form. Telophase आपका chromosomes elongated formation of a two haploid cell. Now meiosis 2 जो होता है वो प्रोफेज 2, मेटाफेज 2, एनाफेज 2, टेलोफेज 2. तो meiosis 1 में प्रोफेज, मेटाफेज, एनाफेज, टेलोफेज सब 1 आएगा. meiosis 2 में सब चीज प्रोफेज, मेटाफेज, एनाफेज, टेलोफेज सब 2 आएगा. चलेगा. Mitosis result in the formation of a 4 haploid cell, 2 genetically identical daughter cell, 2 genetically different daughter cell, 1 diploid and 1 haploid cell. Mitosis result in the formation of a 2 genetically identically daughter cell. Now explanation. Mitosis result in the formation of two genetically identical daughter cell. Now mitosis, period of division. It is the process of a single cell divides resulting in generally two identical cell, each cell containing the same number of chromosome and genetic content as that of the original cell. Mitosis is a continuous process involving four distinct stages visible by light microscopy. तापरे the space between cell in tissue are occupied by cytosol, plasma, intercellular matrix organelles. The space between cells in tissue are occupied by इंटरसेलुलर मैट्रिक्स, ठीक है। साइटोजोल तो अंदर का होगा, प्लाज्मा तो ब्लड का कंपोनेंट, ऑर्गेनेल्स मतलब सब सेलुलर ऑर्गेनेल, ये भी सेल के अंदर होता है। सी कही द स्पेस बिटवीन द सेल, द स्पेस बिटवीन द सेल, दीटा सेल भितर जो स्पेस रोची तो पूरा फिगर को देखिले टिश्यू भितर जो सेल रोची पुणी ता भितर अनेक सेल भितर जो स्पेस रोची, the space between cell in tissue are occupied by सेटा को किए occupied करूची intercellular matrix करूची। Tissue is a group of cell that have similar structure and function together as a unit. A non-living material called as intercellular matrix fills the space between the cell. चला, which of the following site is lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium? Which of the following site is lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium? Hair, outer skin, conjunctiva of eye, nails. I think conjunctiva of eye. So origin and main role of a major tissue. एपिथेलियल टिश्यू ये आपका कवरिंग द लाइनिंग, ठीक अच्छे। सिंपल एपिथेलियल आउ तापर कंपाउंड एपिथेलियल। सिंपल एपिथेलियल में तमर सब टाइप आसुची सिंपल स्क्वामस जो कि पाविमेंट होता है, सिंपल क्यूबोइडल, सिंपल कॉलमनार, स्यूडो स्ट्रैटिफाइड एपिथेलियम। नाउ कंपाउंड एपिथेलियल में आपका स्ट्रैटिफाइड एपिथेलियम, स्ट्रैटिफाइड स्क्वामस, केराटिनाइज्ड stratified epithelium found on a dry surface, example nails, skin, hair. Non-keratinized stratified conjunctiva of eye, pink eye, stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar, transitional epithelium, urothelium. Main function protection, secretion, absorption, excretion, reproduction. Protect tissue from friction and injury, regulate and exchange of chemical between the underlying tissue and body cavities. Sarcoma is the cancer of which of the following tissue? Epithelium, plasma cell, connective tissue, gland. connective tissue, कनेक्टिव टिश्यू जिसको बोला जाता है पैकिंग एंड कनेक्शन। प्रॉपर कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, एरियोलर लूज कनेक्टिव टिश्यू बोला जाता है, पायामेटर, डेंस कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, व्हाइट फाइब्रस कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, टेंडन, येलो फाइब्रस कनेक्टिव टिश्यू का एग्जांपल लिगामेंट, आडिपोज कनेक्टिव टिश्यू का एग्जांपल आपका आएगा ब्लूबर टाइप होता है, व्हाइट एंड ब्राउन आडिपोज टिश्यू होता है। स्पेशलाइज्ड कनेक्टिव टिश्यू में यूरिनरी ब्लैडर होता है। देन स्केलेटल कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, इसमें नोटोकॉर्ड आता है, कॉर्डेट्स, कार्टिलेजेस में भी सब क्लासिफिकेशन है। हाइलाइन कार्टिलेजेस हाइलाइड में, लारिंग्स में मिलेगा। फाइब्रो कार्टिलेजेस इंटरवर्टिब्रल डिस्क में मिलेगा। इलास्टिक कार्टिलेजेस पिना नोज टिप में मिलेगा। कैल्सिफाइड कार्टिलेजेस प्यूबिस ऑफ ओल्ड फ्रॉग में मिलेगा। देन सी में आता है बोन, इसमें भी सब क्लासिफिकेशन है। रिप्लेसिंग बोन वर्टेब्रा में, मेम्ब्रेनस बोन, स्कॉल बोन, सेसामॉइड बोन, पैटेला फावेला में पाया जाता है। फ्लूइड कनेक्टिव टिश्यू में आपका ब्लड आता है, लिम्फ आता है। देन ये सबका आई थिंक फंक्शन क्या है, ठीक है। So attachment, support, protection, storage, transport. These cell also secrete modified polysaccharide which act as a ground substance मतलब matrix and get accumulated between the cells and fiber. Defensive function. सो डिफेंसिव फंक्शन में बैरियर के हिसाब में काम करता है, एनगल्फ बैक्टीरिया एंटीबॉडीज के तौर पर काम करता है। सार्कोलोमा इज द कैंसर ऑफ अ कनेक्टिव टिश्यू। देन उसके बाद रेटिकुलर कनेक्टिव टिश्यू। रेटिकुलर कनेक्टिव टिश्यू में आपका आ जाता है प्रेजेंट इन द लिवर, स्प्लीन, लिम्फ नोड, थाइमस, टॉन्सिल एक्सेट्रा। जय जगन्नाथ। What is the name of the tissue which help in protection and support of the body? Muscular tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue, epithelial tissue. Muscular. What is the name of the tissue which help in protection and support of the body? Protection and support के लिए skeletal muscle system connective tissue होता है। Yes, connective tissue I think। अब इसके कनेक्टिव टिश्यू में पैकिंग एंड कनेक्शन, तो इसमें स्केलेटल कनेक्टिव टिश्यू आता है ना। इन ह्यूमन बॉडी डैश सिस्टम ऑपरेट्स टू मेंटेन pH of a blood plasma. In human body डैश सिस्टम ऑपरेट्स टू मेंटेन pH of a blood plasma. The acetate buffer, lysis buffer, पोटेशियम साइट्रेट, कार्बोनिक एसिड। करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा ह्यूमन बॉडी में कौन सा सिस्टम ऑपरेट करता है टू मेंटेन पीएच ऑफ ब्लड प्लाज्मा। ब्लड प्लाज्मा का पीएच को मेंटेन करने के लिए ह्यूमन बॉडी में कौन सा सिस्टम इसे ऑपरेट करता है। द इन ह्यूमन बॉडी डैश सिस्टम ऑपरेट्स, उस सिस्टम का नाम है कार्बोनिक एसिड सिस्टम। The carbonic acid bicarbonate The carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer system is the primary system that maintain the pH of a blood plasma in human body. Carbon dioxide, a metabolic waste product, react with water to form carbonic acid, which when dissociate into hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion. A buffer solution is a combination of a weak acid and its conjugate base or vice versa. Buffer solution keep the pH of the solution constant even when an acid or base is added. pH of a blood, the pH of a blood is typically around 7.4. Which one of the following anemias is characterized by microcytic hypochromic red blood cell? Aplastic anemia, pernicious anemia, iron deficiency anemia, hemolytic anemia. Which of the following anemia is characterized by microcytic, छोटा भी होगा, hypochromic red blood cell, hypochromic कम रहेगा, hypochromic red blood cell, pernicious anemia, iron deficiency anemia, hemolytic anemia, aplastic anemia। क्या हो जाएगा करेक्ट आंसर? आयरन डेफिशिएंसी एनीमिया। सो टाइप्स ऑफ एनीमिया में आयरन डेफिशिएंसी एनीमिया। इन आयरन डेफिशिएंसी एनीमिया द रेड ब्लड सेल count is often normal but the cells are small, pale, of a variable size and contain less hemoglobin than normal. माइक्रोसाइटिक मतलब स्मॉलर than नॉर्मल रेड ब्लड सेल। हाइपोक्रोमिक मतलब आपका पेल रेड ब्लड सेल ड्यू टू रिड्यूस्ड हेमोग्लोबिन कंटेंट। उसके बाद अप्लास्टिक एनीमिया, अप्लास्टिक मतलब आपका हाइपोप्लास्टिक एनीमिया रिजल्ट फ्रॉम बोन मैरो फेलियर। एरिथ्रोसाइट नंबर्स आर रिड्यूस्ड। हेमोलाइटिक एनीमिया these occurs when circulating red cell are destroyed or are removed prematurely from the blood because the cells are abnormal or the spleen is overactive. Pernicious anemia, this is the most common form of vitamin B12 deficiency anemia, pernicious anemia. This is the most common form of vitamin B12 deficiency anemia. The amount of air that moves in or out of the lungs with each respiratory cycle is expiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, residual volume. The amount of air that moves in out of the lungs with each respiratory cycle is known as tidal volume. So पल्मोनरी एयर वॉल्यूम में आपका टाइडल वॉल्यूम टी भी आता है. द वॉल्यूम ऑफ एयर इंस्पायर्ड और एक्सपायर्ड विथ एवरी नॉर्मल ब्रेथ विदाउट एनी एफर्ट. सो एवरेज वैल्यू आपका 500 ml जो कि 0.5 लीटर होता है. इंस्पिरेटरी रिजर्व वॉल्यूम IRV, the extra amount of air which can be inhaled forcibly आफ्टर ए नॉर्मल इंस्पिरेशन, जो कि एवरेज वैल्यू उसका होता है 2500 से लेकर के 3000 ml, जो कि लगभग 3 लीटर का होता है. देन एक्सपीरेटरी रिजर्व वॉल्यूम ERV, एक्सपायरेटरी रिजर्व वॉल्यूम, द एक्स्ट्रा अमाउंट ऑफ एयर दैट कैन बी एक्सेल्ड फोर्सिबली आफ्टर ए नॉर्मल एक्सपिरेशन, 1000 से लेकर के 1100 ml, जो कि 1 लीटर. रेजिडुअल वॉल्यूम, द वॉल्यूम ऑफ एयर दैट रिमेन्स इनसाइड द लंग्स एट द एंड ऑफ अ मैक्सिमम फोर्सफुल एक्सपिरेशन, जो कि 1100 से लेकर के 1200 ml, जो कि 1.2 लीटर होता है. Which of the following correctly represent the composition of a blood? Blood is equal to plasma, RBC, WBC, blood platelet, lymph, plasma, RBC, WBC, neuron, cyton, dendrite, axon, synapse, प्लाज्मा, ब्लड, लिम्फोसाइट. अरे न्यूरॉन, ये तो न्यूरॉन अलग चीज हो गया भाई. ब्लड में प्लाज्मा आता है, RBC, WBC, ए को मार दो. So it is the study of a blood is known as hematology. Blood is a living fluid connective tissue and its cell are known as corpuscles. Total blood volume आपका 5 लीटर है. ह्यूमन ब्लड pH इज 7.35 से लेकर के 7.45. सो ब्लड आपका प्लाज्मा, RBC, WBC, ब्लड प्लेटलेट को मिल करके बना है. ये सारा काम धंदा किसी नहीं. Which plasma protein is primarily responsible for maintaining colloid osmotic pressure? Which plasma protein is primarily responsible for maintaining colloid osmotic pressure, that is oncotic pressure? Fibrinogen, alpha globulin, albumin, prothrombin. Which plasma protein is primarily responsible for maintaining colloid osmotic या oncotic pressure? Fibrinogen, alpha globulin, albumin, prothrombin. So correct answer हो जाएगा albumin. Which plasma protein is primarily responsible for maintaining colloid osmotic pressure या oncotic pressure, that is albumin. So plasma आपका also include clotting factor, inactive form, straw colored viscous fluid. प्लाज्मा प्रोटीन की अगर बात करेंगे, ग्लूकोज, अमाइनो एसिड, लिपिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट में, मिनरल में सोडियम आयन, कैल्शियम आयन, मैग्नीशियम आयन, HCO3- Cl-. प्रोटीन फाइब्रिनोजेन, ग्लोबिन, एल्बुमिन 3 है. फाइब्रिनोजेन फॉर क्लॉटिंग और कोआगुलेशन ऑफ ब्लड के लिए काम आता है. ग्लोबुलिन इन्वॉल्व इन डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म ऑफ द बॉडी. एल्बुमिन हेल्प्स इन ऑस्मोटिक बैलेंस. Which of the following best described formed element in human blood? only erythrocyte, plasma protein and mineral, erythrocyte, leukocyte and thrombocyte, water, salt, antibodies. Which of the following best describe formed element in human blood? K. Erythrocyte, leukocyte, thrombocyte. Composition of blood. Blood contains the cell which are called formed element and liquid portion known as plasma. Blood cell. Three type of cell are present in blood: red blood cell or erythrocyte, white blood cell, leukocytes, platelets or thrombocyte. Madhav, which cell which cell participates in allergic reaction and shows antihistamine activity? Basophil, neutrophil, eosinophil, monocyte. So which cell participate in allergic reaction and shows antihistamine activity? Eosinophil. So types of a cell फाउंड इन ब्लड, आपका रेड ब्लड सेल एरिथ्रोसाइट, ठीक है, रेड ब्लड सेल एरिथ्रोसाइट. ओरिजिन एंड लाइफ स्पैन बोन मैरो इसका ओरिजिन होता है. लाइफ स्पैन 120 डेज. फंक्शन ट्रांसपोर्ट ऑफ ऑक्सीजन एंड सम कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. आरबीसी कंटेन हेमोग्लोबिन. टाइप्स ऑफ न्यूक्लियस ए न्यूक्लिएट. स्ट्रक्चर आपका सर्कुलर रहेगा. व्हाइट ब्लड सेल लिकोसाइट कहा जाता है. ग्रैन्युलोसाइट 72% ऑफ टोटल व्हाइट ब्लड सेल काउंट. इसमें न्यूट्रोफिल आपका 70% जो होगा हो जाएगा. और बोन मैरो में होता है इसका ओरिजिन. लाइफ स्पैन 2 to 5 डेज. लाइफ स्पैन इसमें 4 to 8 आवर. ये दोनों लाइफ स्पैन कैसे आ गया? न्यूट्रोफिल यहाँ पर 2 लाइफ स्पैन कैसे आ गया? भाई इनको अगर पढ़ोगे दिमाग पूरा कचरा हो जाएगा. The primary physiological function of a red blood cell is to defense against infection, blood clotting, transport of oxygen and some carbon dioxide, production of antibodies. The primary physiological function of a red blood cell is to transport of oxygen and some carbon dioxide. फिर से वही. Where are RBC primarily produced in adult? अरे RBC कहाँ पर? बोन मैरो. ये कोई समझने वाली बात तो है नहीं. The process by which the form element of a blood developed is called as homopoiesis. The process by which formed element of a blood develop is called as hemopoiesis. In the process of hemopoiesis, the stem cell are converted into myeloid stem cell and subsequently differentiated and are developed into precursor cell. Match the following precursor cell with the formed element of a blood from which they are formed. Reticulocyte, megakaryoblast, myloblast, monoblast. So 1 का हो जाएगा आपका R. Match the following precursor cell with the formed element of a blood from which they are formed. Reticulocyte आपका एरिथ्रोसाइट हो जाएगा. मेगाकारियोब्लास्ट आपका प्लेटलेट्स. माइलोब्लास्ट आपका हो जाएगा न्यूट्रोफिल. मोनोब्लास्ट हो जाएगा आपका मैक्रोफेजेस. हेमोपोएसिस CFUE gives rise to which of the following sequence? Myeloblast, reticulocyte, RBC, pro-erythroblast, erythroblast, reticulocyte, erythrocyte, lymphoblast, reticulocyte, RBC, megakaryoblast, reticulocyte, RBC. CFUE gives rise to which of the following sequence? दैट इज प्रो एरिथ्रोब्लास्ट से एरिथ्रोब्लास्ट होगा, एरिथ्रोब्लास्ट से रेटिकुलोसाइट होगा, रेटिकुलोसाइट से एरिथ्रोसाइट होगा. सो होमोपोइसिस माइलॉइड स्टेम सेल गिव्स राइज टू रेड ब्लड सेल, प्लेटलेट, मोनोसाइट, न्यूट्रोफिल, इओसिनोफिल, बासोफिल. CFUE ultimately pro erythroblast, erythroblast, रेटिकुलेट प्रोड्यूसेस एरिथ्रोसाइट जो कि रेड ब्लड सेल. मेगाकारियोसाइट्स द डायरेक्ट सोर्स ऑफ प्लेटलेट्स आर डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम CFUGM, मेगाकारियोब्लास्ट, माइलोब्लास्ट, प्रोएरिथ्रोब्लास्ट. मेगाकारियोसाइट्स द डायरेक्ट सोर्स ऑफ प्लेटलेट्स आर डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम मेगाकारियोब्लास्ट. Megakaryoblast produces megakaryocytes, the source of platelets, and CFUGM ultimately produces granulocyte and monocyte. In the next generation, the cells are called precursor cell, also known as blasts. Cell division, they develop into the actual formed element of the blood. Okay. The primary organ affected in pulmonary tuberculosis, liver. ए pulmonary, liver के लिए hepatic, हाँ lungs. Chronic obstructive respiratory disorder, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It is a chronic inflammatory lung disease that causes obstructed airways from the lungs, bronchitis and inflammation of the bronchi, emphysema, inflammation or abnormal distension of the bronchial or alveolar sac, asthma, allergic reaction that causes constriction of bronchioles, muscles, pneumonia, an infection of the alveoli, pulmonary tuberculosis spread through airborne droplet from an infected person which affect the lungs and throats. When RBC are kept in isotonic NaCl solution, option A, there will not be any movement of solute across the RBC membrane. The RBC shape and size will not change because the osmotic pressure across the membrane is same. The solute will not cross across the RBC membrane. All of these. When RBC are kept in isotonic NaCl solution, तो क्या होगा? ऑल ऑफ द अबव करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा. When RBC are kept in isotonic NaCl solution, there will not be any movement of a solute across the RBC membrane. The RBC shape and size will not change because the osmotic pressure across the membrane is same. The solute will not cross across the RBC membrane. The solute will not cross across the RBC membrane. Types of solution, isotonic और co-osmotic, जिसमें no change in RBC shape and size. Solution having same concentration or same osmotic pressure equal to blood plasma or lacrimal secretion. एग्जाम्पल आएगा 0.9% वेट बाई वॉल्यूम NaCl, 5% वेट बाई वॉल्यूम डेक्सट्रोज, 1.86 वेट बाई वॉल्यूम बोरिक एसिड, 1.8% वेट बाई वॉल्यूम यूरिया. एप्लीकेशन यूजफुल इन पैरेंटरल IV फ्लूइड्स. हाइपोटोनिक, जिसमें आरबीसी स्वेल करने लगता है. सॉल्यूशन विथ लोअर ऑस्मोटिक प्रेशर और लेस कंसेंट्रेशन विथ ब्लड प्लाज्मा. 2% वेट बाई वॉल्यूम डेक्सट्रोज, 0.45% वेट बाई वॉल्यूम NaCl. हाइपरटोनिक, आरबीसी एतरे कौन करिवो श्रिंक करिजिवो. सॉल्यूशन हैविंग हायर ऑस्मोटिक प्रेशर or higher concentration than normal blood plasma can cause crenation, मतलब shrinking of a blood cell, which is a reversible process. 10% weight by volume dextrose, 2% weight by volume NaCl. Parenteral nutrition solution and a sclerosing agent. Solution and sclerosing agent. Which of the following cells are called scavenger cells? Scavenger cell आपका macrophages आएगा. For example, myeloblast develop into monoblast, eosinophil, neutrophil. Monocyte produce dendritic cell and a macrophage, जिसको हम scavenger cell कहते हैं. Several hormone called as hemopoietic growth factor regulate the differentiation and proliferation of a particular cell. Okay. Match the blood group with antibody type in plasma. A ब्लड ग्रुप के पास कौन सा एंटीबॉडीज प्रेजेंट होगा? एंटी बी होगा. ए ब्लड ग्रुप ए का क्यू आएगा, 1 का क्यू 2 जगह पर आता है. ठीक है. बी का होगा ए, 2 का होगा आर. तो ए करेक्ट आंसर. अब किसी भाविया दरकार नहीं. ए बी का आपका ए बी एंटीजन नो एंटीबॉडी, 3 का हो जाएगा एस. ओ में आपका क्या हो जाएगा एंटीबॉडीज? ओ का वाइस वर्सा हो जाएगा. ए बी दोनों पी. चलेगा नहीं दौड़ेगा. Hemophilia A is caused due to the reduction in the quantity or activity of which of the following clotting factor? Hemophilia A is caused due to the reduction in the quantity or activity of which of the following clotting factor? Vitamin K, clotting factor IV, clotting factor VIII, clotting factor IX. So hemophilia A is caused due to the reduction in the quantity or activity of which of the following clotting factor? That is clotting factor VIII. Hemophilia A is caused due to the reduction in the quantity or activity of which of the following clotting factor? Reduction. The factor involved in blood clotting: factor 1 fibrinogen, factor 2 prothrombin, factor 3 tissue thromboplastin, factor IV calcium ion, factor B labile factor, factor VII stable factor, factor VIII antihemophilic factor, factor IX आपका क्रिसमस फैक्टर, फैक्टर X स्टुअर्ट पावर प्रोवर फैक्टर और थ्रोम्बोकाइनेज फैक्टर, फैक्टर XI प्लाज्मा थ्रोम्बोप्लास्टिन एंटीसीडेंट PTA, फैक्टर XII हेजमैन फैक्टर और कॉन्टैक्ट फैक्टर, फैक्टर XIII फाइब्रिन स्टेबलाइजिंग फैक्टर. आई थिंक. Which of the following correctly identifies factor X, including its alternate name and role in coagulation. Factor X, Stewart Power factor, और इसे थ्रोम्बोकाइनेज बोला जाता है. सी करेक्ट आंसर. मैच द फॉलोइंग. ग्रुप 1 कंडीशन, ग्रुप 2 आपका डिस्क्रिप्शन. एग्रानुलोसाइटोसिस, चार ही रहा, कभी भी नहीं. ये दोनों आ रहा है. अप्लास्टिक एनीमिया, चार ही रहा. अप्लास्टिक एनीमिया. सी करेक्ट. चल जुट्टा. एग्रानुलोसाइटोसिस, लैक ऑफ न्यूट्रोफिल. एनिसोसाइटोसिस आपका abnormal वेरिएशन इन आरबीसी साइज. अप्लास्टिक एनीमिया आपका डिप्रेशन ऑफ सिंथेसिस ऑफ ऑल सेल टाइप इन बोन मैरो. हेमोलाइटिक एनीमिया आपका रिड्यूस लाइफ स्पैन ऑफ एरिथ्रोसाइट. Which compartment of the digestive system has the lowest pH? Which compartment of the digestive system has the lowest pH? Duodenum, saliva, large intestine, lower stomach. Which compartment of the digestive system has the lowest pH? Lowest pH होची lower stomach में. pH of digestive system saliva माउथ में 6.5 से 7.5. अपर स्टोमक फंडिक वाला रीजन में 4.0 से लेकर के 6.5. लोअर स्टोमक में 1.5 से लेकर के 4.0. डिओडेनम में 7.0 से 8.5. लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन में 4.0 से 7.0. Which of the following is not a part of the bucopharyngeal cavity? Buccopharyngeal cavity, buccal cavity, pharynx, tongue, esophagus. No, esophagus. Which of the following is not part of the buccopharyngeal cavity? Oesophagus. Buccopharyngeal cavity, the space between the jaw is divided into three parts. Buccal cavity, pharynx, vestibules. Tongue is a thick muscular protrusible structure attached to the floor of a buccal cavity by means of soft ligamentous fold called frenulum. Teeth are a hard structure meant for tearing, cutting, crushing, and holding food. Oesophagus, a long, narrow muscular tubular structure which connects pharynx with stomach. The esophagus serves to convey the food by peristalsis from the pharynx to the stomach. Esophagus is also called food pipe. Choose the correct statement for stomach. J-shaped part of alimentary canal. Man is unable to digest cellulose. Secretory and excretory function. Large and small intestine. Choose the correct combination. Choose the correct statement for stomach. J-shaped part of alimentary canal. Man is unable to digest cellulose. Choose the correct statement for stomach. choose the correct statement for stomach. Man is unable to digest cellulose. J-shaped part of J-shaped part of alimentary canal. J-shaped is a part of alimentary canal. Okay, man is unable to digest cellulose. Stomach widest and distensibly J-shaped part of alimentary canal placed obliquely behind the diaphragm. It is differentiated into three parts: cardiac, fundic, and pyloric. Mechanical digestion in mouth, in which food is mixed with saliva, is a mastication, and the movement of a food from mouth into stomach is uh, deglutition. Man is unable to digest cellulose. Sodium taurocholate helps in the digestion of a fat. Liver is a dual organ having both secretory excretory function. It is largest gland in the body, weighing about 1.5 kg in man. It is located in the upper and right side of the abdominal cavity, immediately beneath the diaphragm. Intestine is divided into large and small intestine. Small intestine divided into three parts: proximal duodenum, shortest and widest part; middle jejunum, thicker and vascular; distal ileum, thinner than jejunum and less vascular. Large intestine divided into three parts: cecum. Cecum in human is a pouch-like small junction between ileum and colon, then colon rectum. What is the fasting physiological pH value in the jejunum? What is the fasting physiological pH value इन द जेजुनम? 4.8 से लेकर के प्लस और माइनस 0.4, 6.8 प्लस और माइनस 0.4, 3.2 प्लस और माइनस 0.4, 8.6 प्लस और माइनस 0.4. What is the fasting physiological pH value in the jejunum? 6.8 plus or minus 0.4. Average pH value in healthy human in the fastest and fed state at various sites in the upper gastrointestinal tract. Stomach average pH fasted state 1.3, average pH fed state 4.9, duodenum आपका average pH fasted state 6.5, average pH fed state 5.4, jejunum average pH fasted state 6.6, जबकि average pH fed state 5.2 से 6.0. Ileum average pH fasted state 7.4, average pH fed state 7.5. How many major paired salivary gland are present in human? 2 3 4 5. How many major paired salivary gland are present in human? 3. भाई 49 में हो गया, अभी तक मेरा साला 38 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हुआ है. एक्सप्लेनेशन. Salivary gland. The salivary gland in mammal are exocrine gland that produce saliva through a system of duct. Human have three paired major salivary gland: parotid, submandibular, sublingual, as well as 100 of minor salivary gland. Salivary amylase help in the digestion of which of the following nutrient? Fat, vitamin, protein, starch. Salivary amylase help in digestion of which of the following nutrient? That is starch. डाइजेस्टिव एंजाइम में डाइजेस्टिव ग्लैंड एंड जूस में सलाइवरी ग्लैंड जूस. एंजाइम आपका सलाइवरी अमाइलेज या टाइलिन. पीएच आपका न्यूट्रल 7.0. सब्सटेंस एक्टेड अपन आपका स्टार्च एंड प्रोडक्ट आपका माल्टोज आएगा। गैस्ट्रिक ग्लैंड जूस, इसमें आपका एंजाइम आएगा पेप्सिन, रेनिन, लाइपेज। पीएच आपका एसिडिक होगा, 1.5 से लेकर के 2 तक रहेगा। सब्सटेंस एक्टेड अपन प्रोटीन, केजिनोजेन ऑफ मिल्क एंड फैट्स। एंड प्रोडक्ट आपका पेप्टोन आएगा, पेप्टाइड्स आएगा, पारा केजिन, केजिन एंड केजिन, फैटी एसिड एंड ग्लिसरॉल। लीवर जिसे बाइल जूस, इसमें एंजाइम नो डाइजेस्टिव एंजाइम। पीएच आपका अल्कलाइन 7.1 से लेकर के 8.3। सब्सटेंस एक्टेड अपन फैट आपका रहेगा एंड एंड प्रोडक्ट आपका एमल्सिफाइड फैट रहेगा, दैट काइलोमाइक्रॉन्स। देन पैनक्रियाज, पैनक्रियाटिक जूस, इसमें ट्रिप्सिन, काइमोट्रिप्सिन, कार्बोक्सी पेप्टिडेज, अमाइलेज, लाइपेज, स्टेप्सिन। तो 7.5 से लेकर के 8.0। इसमें प्रोटीन, प्रोटीन एंड पेप्टाइड, पॉलीपेप्टाइड, पेप्टोन्स, स्टार्च, फैट। एंड प्रोडक्ट आपका पेप्टाइड्स, अमाइनो एसिड, माल्टोज, फैटी एसिड एंड ग्लिसरॉल। ओके। देन इंटेस्टिनल ग्लैंड जूस, इसमें इरेप्सिन, एरिप्सिन, लाइपेज, सुक्रोज, माल्टोज, लैक्टेज। पीएच आपका 7.6 आएगा। आपका सब्सटेंस एक्टेड अपन पॉलीपेप्टाइड, फैट्स, सुक्रोज, माल्टोज, लैक्टोज। एंड प्रोडक्ट आपका आएगा अमाइनो एसिड, फैटी एसिड, ग्लिसरॉल, ग्लूकोज, फ्रुक्टोज, ग्लूकोज एंड गैलेक्टोज। The visible colored ring of the eye is called as visible colored eye is part of eye and their function. Iris, color part of the eye, control light entering cornea, allows the passage of light into eye and it also focuses the light. थिकनेस ऑफ अ कॉर्निया इज अबाउट 540 से लेकर के 550 माइक्रोमीटर। पीपल, ब्लैक होल इन आइरिस। Pupil size is controlled by iris muscles. Light rays enter the eye is controlled by pupils. Lens, the lens of the eyeball is crystalline in nature, situated behind the pupils. It is a biconvex, transparent and elastic structure. Sclera, support eyeball, eyeball, support eyeball and provide attachment for muscles. Sclera. Retina, light sensitive tissue at the back of the eye. Retina, light back of the eye. The retina convert light into electrical impulses that are sent to the brain through the optic nerve. Human retina has two type of photoreceptor to gather light, namely rods and cones. Rods are responsible for vision at low light level. Color vision is possible due to photoreceptor in the retina of the eye known as cones. Cones are responsible for vision at higher light levels. Optic nerve transmit electrical signal from retina to the brain. Choose the correct statement for retina, light sensitive tissue at the back of the eye, correct colored part of the eye, control light entering, rods are responsible for vision at low light level, situated behind the pupil. Choose the correct statement for retina. कौन सा करेक्ट होगा? पी आपका करेक्ट हो जाएगा, लाइट सेंसिटिव टिश्यू एट द बैक ऑफ द आई। ओके, ठीक है, ये ट्रू है। क्यू आपका कॉलर पार्ट ऑफ आई, कंट्रोल लाइट एंटरिंग, ठीक है, ये भी ट्रू। पी क्यू आपका ट्रू। कॉलर पार्ट ऑफ आई ना, ये फॉल्स हो जाएगा। रॉड्स आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर विजन एट लो लाइट लेवल, यस इट इज ट्रू। सिचुएटेड बिहाइंड द पीपल, सिचुएटेड बिहाइंड द पीपल, ये आपका कहीं ना कहीं। चूज द करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट फॉर रेटिना। रेटिना के लिए करेक्ट, सिचुएटेड बिहाइंड द पीपल, एस आपका फॉल्स. Light sensitive tissue at the back of the eye. Which of the following is not a function of a nasal cavity? Nasal cavity, warming, filtering and cleaning, humidification, gas exchange. I think filtering and cleaning. No, gas exchange. Nose and nasal cavity. Nasal chamber leads to nasopharynx. Nasal cavity is lined by mucous membrane and small hair are present. Function warming करना, filtering and cleaning, humidification. से कहिछि which one of the following is not a function of nasal cavity? Gas exchange करना साला साधारण गैस एक्सचेंज, वार्मिंग करना, फिल्टरिंग करना, क्लीनिंग करना, ह्यूमिडिफिकेशन, ये सब नाजल कैविटी का काम है. वार्मिंग करना, फिल्टरिंग करना, क्लीनिंग, ह्यूमिडिफिकेशन. Pharynx, it is divided into three parts: naso, oro and laryngopharynx. Function passage of air and food, speech, hearing, protection from infection. That is pharynx. Which part of internal ear receives sound wave in man? Cochlea, lagina, orticulus, ampullae, orticulus, none of these. Which part of internal ear receives sound wave in man? Cochlea. Which part of internal ear receives sound wave in a man? Cochlea. So internal ear or labyrinth is a membrane structure enclosed by a bony labyrinth in petro petros in petros part of a temporal bone. It consists of a sense organ of hearing and equilibrium. Sense organ for hearing is cochlea and the sense organ for equilibrium is the vestibular apparatus. Cochlea is a coil structure like snail's shell. It consists of two structures: central conical axis formed by spongy bone called as modiolus, bony canal or tube which winds around the modiolus. Cochlea is a part of inner ear which contain organ of Cotti, which is considered as a body's microphone. It is the organ for hearing and present on the basilar membrane, which is the floor of cochlear duct. Sound wave from the environment enter the external ear and are directed to the eardrum, that is tympanic membrane, which vibrate on receiving sound waves, and vibration are sent to oval window through ear ossicles. Malleus incus steps from the oval window. These vibrations are passed on to fluid of cochlea where waves are generated into lymph due to these vibration. Hence cochlea receives sound wave. The part of skull that protect the inner ear is frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone. The part of skull that protects the inner ear is called as temporal bone. Ear or audioception. The ear performs two sensory functions: hearing and maintenance of body balance. Human can hear frequencies up to 20 Hz and 20 kHz. The temporal bone which protects the inner ear is the hardest bone in the human body. The middle ear opens into the nasopharynx through the cochlear duct, semicircular canal, auditory eustachian tube, vestibular nerve. The middle ear opens into the nasopharynx through the through the middle ear opens into the nasopharynx through the auditory or eustachian tube. Now divided into three parts: outer ear. It comprises of a two part: pinna and extraordinary auditory canal. Middle ear, an air-filled cavity in the temporal bone that opens via auditory eustachian tube into the nasopharynx. Middle ear contains flexible chain of a three small bone called as ear ossicles. Malleus incus stapes. The stapes or stirrup is a bone, smallest bone of the human body. The tympanic membrane is also called the eardrum. Which of the following pH range best represent the typical surface pH of a healthy adult human skin? 2.0 से 3.0, 4.5 से 6.2, 7.0 से 8.0, 8.5 से 9.5. Which of the following pH range best represent the typical surface pH of the healthy human adult skin? 4.5 से 6.2, 4.5 से 6.2. Skin or tactioception. The skin is the largest organ of the body while a total area about 20 square feet. The pH of skin is between 4.5 से लेकर के 6.2, slightly acidic. There are measured acid base. There are major three layer: epidermis, dermis, hypodermis. This is subcutaneous layer. The thickest layer of epidermis, which provides structural strength and contain Langerhans cell, is stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, stratum corneum, stratum lucidum. The thickest layer of epidermis, which provides structural strength and contain Langerhans cell, is stratum spinosum. Now, stratum corneum, the outermost and top layer of epidermis. There are five layers of epidermis. Stratum corneum, it is the outermost or top layer of epidermis. It is made up of dead flat keratinocytes that sets approximately every 2 weeks. It acts as a barrier in the absorption of a drug in a topical preparation. Stratum lucidum, this layer exists only on the palm of the hand and sole of the feet. Stratum granulosum, this layer contains more keratinocytes moving towards the surface. Stratum spinosum, this layer, which is also known as squamous cell layer, is the thickest layer of the epidermis. It contains newly formed keratinocytes which are strengthening protein. It also contains Langerhans cell that helps prevent infection. Stratum basales, this is a bottom layer which is also known as basal cell layer, has a column shaped basal cell that divides and pushes older cell towards the surface of the skin. Approximately how many taste buds are present in adults? 10,000. The sense organ for taste or gustatory sensation are the taste bud. In adult, about 10,000 taste buds are present. More taste buds are present in papillae of the tongue. They are also situated in the mucosa of epiglottis and the proximal part of the esophagus. Identify the true statement with respect to hypogeusia. Disturbance in the taste sensation, loss of taste sensation is called ageusia. It is a rare genetic disorder. The decrease in taste sensation is known as hypo. I think see. Only is true. A ageusia. Loss of taste sensation is called ageusia. Hypogeusia. The decrease in taste sensation is known as hypogeusia. Taste blindness, it is a rare genetic disorder in which ability to recognize substance by taste is lost. Dysgeusia, disturbance in taste sensation. Which of the following is part of the conducting zone of the respiratory system? Alveoli, alveolar sac, bronchi, alveolar ducts, bronchi. Which of the following is part of a conducting zone of respiratory system? रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम का कंडक्टिंग जोन का इनमें से कौन एक पार्ट है? ब्रोंकाई. Respiratory system in human beings is a respiratory tract which starts at the nostril and ends at alveoli. The human respiratory system consists of two parts. Respiratory tract, conducting zone. Conducting part include nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and terminal bronchioles. Function: remove foreign particle from air and brings the air to the body temperature. खत्म ହେଇଗଲା. Cell tissue, blood, digestive system, sense organ. Cell tissue, blood, digestive system, sense organ, respiratory system.